Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Blizzard Watch podcast. A lot going on, so we're going to probably just introduce our new host and then have everybody else say hi. This week only, I get, unless she feels like coming back at some other point, we have Liz Patt, who works for the site and is really cool. Hi, Liz.
Hello.
And of course, since we now have two Liz's on this show, is of course Editor-in-Chief Liz Harper.
Howdy.
And I'm not telling you guys to say anything because you always do that thing. And finally, of course, Joe Perez, who really always does that thing.
Hello, all.
So yeah, we're a lot of stuff to talk about. Liz, do you want to do Patreon right now just to get it done?
Sure. All of y'all help us support us on Patreon. This whole site community, these podcasts, everything we write is made possible by you, our supporters. We are trying to get the site up to $4,500 a month on Patreon. We're doing okay, but getting Patreon up helps us create more content, helps us keep doing the things we're doing. We are doing a series of Dragon Age podcasts leading up to the release of Dragon Age Veilguard at the end of this month, and the first one should have come out this week. We are doing more tabletop podcasts, which I think they're going to be great. They should be coming out maybe this month. We may be doing them next month. I'm not sure, but soon. We're recording a whole lot of stuff right now for you that will be rolling out over the next few months. And it lets us do more video game stuff. We were talking to Jason Schreier just last week, which was a really fun conversation about the history of Blizzard Entertainment. That podcast is out right now. We are trying to do lots of guides about Diablo 4, lots of guides about World of Warcraft. And so your support makes all of that possible. Lets us do what we're doing now. It lets us do more than we're doing now. And I want to thank some new supporters in the past week. Jahan came in at $5. Timothy, $5. Here's one I don't know how to say your name. Oberatix? Oh, I'm so sorry. I know I'm not saying that right. $5. And Vass at $5. You very kind folks help keep the site alive. Everyone who subscribes at $3 or more gets early access to these podcasts and the unedited version, which includes a rambling pre-show where we talk about video games, books, television, movies, comics, anything that catches our eyes this week. So, if you can support us, please go over to patreon.com/BlizzardWatch and pledge at whatever level you can. And if you can't, totally understand. Like these podcasts, write reviews, just listen to them, just read the site. We are grateful to have you as listeners, as readers, and just the moral support. We love it. Thank you all for supporting us, and I appreciate you.
Yes, thank you, Liz. I am terrified of you, and I want to placate you at all costs, guys. Like, seriously, just please don't destroy me. Anyway, the only real big news of the week is that Starcraft is coming to Game Pass. That's a lie. Sorry, but I do think we should talk about it really fast because one of the things that we noticed way back when Microsoft first talked about, devouring Blizzard whole and Activision too, you will adapt to service us and all that, was that they put Starcraft right on the poster they made. Like of the companies, they had one Activision game, they had, Candy Crush because that's pretty much the only thing that King does.
King does, yep.
Yeah, and then they had 3 Blizzard games, one of which was StarCraft. So we were like, okay, does that mean there's going to be more StarCraft? And maybe, we don't know, but it does mean that they're putting StarCraft and StarCraft 2 on Game Pass. They haven't actually talked about StarCraft 2 yet. I think it's just StarCraft right now that they have a confirmed release for. But yeah, that's happening. Liz mentioned the Jason Schreier interview, so I will point out really quickly that one of the things he talked about that has become kind of he threw it in as an aside, and it's in his book. Again, it's not a major part of it. It's just one of the things he mentions. But everyone seems to have glommed onto the fact that Blizzard is apparently working on a third StarCraft shooter. Like they've worked on 2 up to now, and those both died, and now they're working on a third. I don't know if it's going to be third time's a charm, or if it's going to be we will just keep killing this game until it stays dead. No idea, but that's something I thought we could mention because we did talk to Jason, and we do have a podcast on that. But I think we kind of have to talk about something else. Go ahead, Liz.
I do want to jump in. StarCraft Remastered and StarCraft 2 Campaign Collection are going to be available to everyone with PC Game Pass or Game Pass Ultimate starting on November 5th. And also, We talked to Jason Schreier last week, but his book, Play Nice, The Rise, Fall, and Future of Blizzard Entertainment is out now. It is a great read. It's just a great read. If you're interested in video games, if you're interested in Blizzard, it's a great book. I highly recommend it.
Even if you're just interested in how corporations work, it's very interesting to read.
Yeah.
So. But yeah, we should talk about the big Warcraft news, which is that the patch 11.0.5 is going to be releasing on October 22nd. And when that does release, it's mostly the 20th anniversary stuff, which is quite a bit of stuff.
So much.
Yeah. There's more than I really feel like I can even talk about. Like there's new remastered versions of the tier 2 set pieces, including sets that didn't exist because those classes didn't exist in that time period. So, if you were getting tier 2 at the time, you wouldn't have seen this stuff, but they've made sets for it now. There's a lot of world bosses. There's a ton of new stuff to do. It's actually, I don't know if I'd say it's surprisingly big for a 20th anniversary because it's a 20th anniversary, but it is a big patch. It's twice as long as the usual, right?
It's going to last the entire patch cycle. So it's Blizzard, I think, specifically mentioned it's going on through December. Sorry, I almost got that wrong. And that's long. That's long for an anniversary event.
Usually they're only 2 weeks, I think. So this is massive.
So this is 2 months instead.
An absolute mountain of content, and it's going to be around. There's also a new raid for Blackrock Depths, and I know my raid group, also Joe's raid group, actually also Liz's raid group. It's we're kind of a tight knit little group here. Has been talking about, okay, how are we going to tackle this? We're still in Narubar Palace, and also this has a smaller maximum size, so we probably need to split our usual raid group into 2 raid groups, and, when are we going to schedule this? So it's a little challenge. There's so much content, it's kind of challenging to find time to play the content. Yeah,
which kind of feels like it's almost the motto for World of Warcraft the past year or so.
Yeah, it's we're throwing out patches like clockwork.
Yeah, but that's a quality problem to have, right? Like it's one of those.
Oh no, it's definitely better than we got nothing to do for 18 months. I'm not saying.
Yeah, it's better than Siege of Orgrimmar, right? Like
for sure.
So, like, I will take there being too much stuff, but I'm also really excited that there's, in this particular one, having it be there's just so much stuff going on between Blackrock Depths, the Gates of Anchorage, Vanilla Dungeon, Time Walking, which okay, yes, please. The huge anniversary party, which will be outside of the Caverns of Time this time instead of just inside of it. You have you mentioned all of the world bosses. So what is that? That's the Dragons of Nightmare, Azaragos, Kazakh returning, Shah of Anger, Archivon the Stone Watcher, and they're adding more than stuff we've already seen. Doomwalker, the updated tier 2 sets, which are absolutely just. I know I'm super excited for it, and I think other people are. Tier 2 still remains one of my favorite sets for Shaman.
It's actually a quality set. I wore it at the time, and it's really.
I still occasionally just mog into it because it's like, well, why not? I have the ability to do so. Let's go. But I really like that they're putting so much effort into this. And yes, I understand this is their 20th anniversary, and you expect them to put that much effort into something like that, but. Seriously, how many times have we seen people phone in anniversary stuff or holiday stuff? Blizzard is also not exactly immune from that either, but
yeah, in this specific instance, it is fair to say that they are going pretty far for this, and it's pretty cool that they are.
Blizzard looked at this schedule and they're like, okay, we've got an anniversary and we've got a patch that's going to be due out about then. What should we do in that patch? And it's like, we're just going to do the anniversary. We are going to blow it out. And they've made an entire patch just to celebrate 20 years of World of Warcraft. And it's great. It's great.
I also want to mention really fast. When did Season of Discovery what was the idea for the vanilla dungeons? Do you guys think it was Season of Discovery? You think that's where it came from, that they realized how popular that was? Because that's something I've been worrying. I'm not worried, but just thinking about.
I mean, that could just be the popularity of Classic. Classic has been huge from day one. Well, surprisingly huge.
To be fair, it's also something that people have been screaming about since Time Walking became a thing. So, if you go to the forums, you go to Reddit, you go to all the deep places on the internet that people ask for content. It's one of those things that people have been saying since the beginning. When are we going to get vanilla time walking dungeons? When are we going to get classic time walking dungeons? So I think that it's always been a thing, because at the end of the day, they do kind of listen to the community, because they're also playing the game themselves. And a lot of the people that are working on it, it's, they want to see this stuff too. Right. So
yeah, like all these various transmog weapons that are also coming to retail based on season discovery stuff, like the Claymore of the Knight's Pledge. I've been like looking at that sword and going, oh wow, it's so simple and elegant, and I must have it. Then I'm like, oh, that means I have to not play Diablo, and I'm
and also you would not have it for your retail characters anyway.
I have a problem.
I mean, if it's something in season of discovery.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Anyway, so yeah, that's really cool. I honestly love season discovery. You can talk about it forever, but I have yet to actually play it. And it's one of those, I simply don't have time.
Time is absolutely a factor. To everybody's point, there's so much to do now in game in general, and there's a lot of options, especially in this expansion. And Diablo 4 just released, so time is a premium.
What's like what Liz P said before about how we were doing the pre-show and she was talking about Stardew Valley versus World of Warcraft. Now sometimes you feel like World of Warcraft, you log in and it's your second job. I don't think you use those words, but it's like I must do everything now.
No, it's wholly accurate though. There's so much going on at all times.
I don't think it's necessarily the intention of the developers. I think it's the players.
Yeah.
I think people like us get weird and feel like now. I'm the same way.
Yeah, there was definitely a time though where that was the goal, and they wanted to keep you in the game as long as possible and keep you engaged, because they were concerned with engagement metrics, because engagement somehow translated to money. But yeah, I think now it's firmly on the players.
Yeah, well, I mean, to a certain degree, we learned it by watching you, but also to a certain degree, it's always been the case that players eat content as soon as the content gets there. I remember when we were in Mists of Pandaria and they brought out the Horde and Alliance campaigns and their story. I'm a pretty quick get to this story content kind of person. It's sort of my whole deal. And I couldn't come close to keeping up with them. Like the only thing that kept those people from like having it all done the first day was the fact that it was literally gated and you couldn't. Like you got so much and then it stopped for a week, and there was nothing you could do to make it happen any faster. That's the only thing that saved it. So it's a complicated chicken and egg kind of question. Which came first, voracious player demand or cynical corporate greed? Who knows? But at this point, we do have to actually talk about Diablo, because for one thing, I'm getting itchy. So yeah, Vessel of Hatred dropped technically yesterday at 4 p.m. Originally 4 p.m. Pacific.
Technically,
it was meant to.
It was supposed to drop on October 7th at 4 p.m. Pacific. That was the plan.
That was the dream, eh? All right, well, I'm going to throw it to Liz P to start talking first, because you don't get to be here every week.
I don't. And I don't have thoughts and feelings, because I'm sure that yesterday was an incredibly hard day for the Diablo team, because they've been building up to this, and they've done some really amazing marketing, like with the live action trailer and just the dribbling the videos out, and then they come up to the day and it comes up to 4 p.m. and Adam Pezradar, bless his heart, and I mean that in the I feel for you way.
Not the southern way.
Not the southern way, involving comparing your intelligence to a bag of rocks. He had to go onto Twitter and post that there was a brief delay, and then there was a growth,
very brief,
to that brief delay. So we stacked many a brief delay one on top of the other, and finally
we had a Jenga tower.
We had a Jenga tower of delays, followed by a multi-gig additional patch, which was very interesting for the PC players that had preloaded.
5 hours later.
5 hours later.
Trust me, it wasn't that much better. The best part for me when this was all happening was I tried to put my code in to get season, get Vessel of Hatred, and it just kept saying nope, 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 nope. And then finally, when it went through, it didn't actually download any patch or anything. So the game kept telling me to buy Vessel of Hatred. I'm like, no, I gave you the code. I gave you the code.
You're being gaslit by
finally I got it to accept, I figured out how to do this, and I went up and told it to download the add-on. Do you know how long the add-on was for console?
It was like almost 70 gigs.
No.
I downloaded it yesterday too.
Yeah, but they'd already downloaded it on me like yesterday. So I got in and only had to download 50 megs.
Oh wow.
Yeah, Xbox, you're using PlayStation, right?
Yeah, and downloading the game was...
One thing Xbox is good at, I will give them credit for this. They can sneak stuff onto your console without you knowing it.
Yeah, it's Blizzard. Blizzard was saying you were going to be able to preload this on console, and my PlayStation was like, we're going to download this at 6 p.m. on launch day, which was an hour ahead in my local time. And I'm like, that's not really great. And then it came around to 6 p.m. and it wouldn't even download. I had so much trouble downloading it. It kept erroring out. And then, the good thing is it took me about 4 hours to download the game. So by the time I downloaded the game, the servers were almost ready to come online again.
And again, Liz made this point, and I think we all share this point that, we understand that this was, we're kind of joking a little, because we, at least some of us, remember Diablo 3's Error 101 or whatever, but we don't expect that there's anything wrong with the fact that it took longer than expected. Things happen, we get that, but it does mean that you get to experience all the weirdness of the fact that we live in this digital age, but we still haven't quite figured out what that means. Especially for games, like gaming does not know what it's doing with the digital and always on, and patches and downloading of patches and all this stuff. It's gotten into like a polyglot mess. So I find it kind of funny to watch, just straight up.
I think Diablo 4, to an extent, it's created its own problem. It tries to do patches with zero downtime. It's like, we're just going to click a button and it's going to be live. And for seasons, usually that's not a big deal. But for a huge patch, today Diablo is a totally different game than it was yesterday. There have been so many changes to the base game of Diablo 4. This is like unrecognizable from the original game with the gameplay mechanics. The classes have completely changed. There are more talent points. There are more Paragon points.
There's new talents that you never saw before.
There are new talents. Talents have been rearranged. There are different difficulty levels. There are different gameplay modes. There is so much that's changed. And
more hairstyles.
There are more hairstyles.
I'm sorry. I'm never going to let this go. More hairstyles. I was so thrilled. I was like, oh my God, I can give her different hair than than that weird I'm in the Beatles in the early 60s thing that they had going for a while.
So the thing is, Diablo was planning to do this patch with no downtime. It was going to roll out the patch, roll out the expansion, roll out a new season, and just have it immediately available for players. And I can see how that is a very difficult thing to do. I can see how it's so difficult that maybe they shouldn't try to do it and just plan some downtime to make sure the actual launch time goes smoothly. Diablo 4 does very limited testing of patches, and then it continues to try to do a no downtime patch cycle, where it's like, nope, no downtime, server's going to be immediately up with all the new content.
Yeah, the problem that I think you run into with the no downtime patches, and Liz P and I have worked in software and tech and for a long time now, is everybody wants a zero downtime patch because it's the best for everybody involved if it'll work. It rarely ever works. And the problem, then we talked about this a little bit before we started recording, knowing in particular, not just the Diablo team, but the server team and what's happened with them over the course of the last 12 months. Like, they don't have nearly as many people working on the server team, which means they don't have that many people as many people as they used to pull in to handle like the authentication issues. And there were authentication issues, like Matt pointed out, with like trying to log in and get the code to be accepted. That's all on the back end. That has nothing to do specifically with Diablo. That has an entire separate part of their infrastructure that handles that.
Yeah, but it's, as you pointed out, it's the server team used to be all hands on deck, and the entire crew of the bounty would show up. Now it's all hands on deck, and it's 7 guys.
Yeah, and I don't know the actual number. And
no, this is just an example.
But we're dramatizing it a little bit. But the point stands is that they don't have nearly as many hands as they used to, and then the Diablo team has to contend with that, right? And it is entirely possible that in a perfect world, they would have had a 0 downtime patch, but because of other pieces that they're reliant on in the company, it might not be. And I'm not saying that they were absolutely flawless, because I don't know. I don't know what the story in the back end was. And to Liz's point, yes, they may have limited testing and stuff like that. And I talked about this a little bit before we recorded as well. The other problem that they ran into is I don't know that they necessarily had the forecast for how many people were going to log in immediately at launch. Because
it's interesting because it feels like they should have. They were pushing pre-orders hard. I expect a lot of people pre-ordered, and they should have had some. They should have at least had an idea. And even today, the servers have been really laggy for me, so it's been very hard to play at all.
And my counterpoint to that, though, too, is, and I wish they would release these, because they used to do this way back when, and some folks remember this. I think the last time they did it was like Mr. Pandaria. You would get pre-order numbers, and then you would get day of purchases. And part of the problem, I think, with Diablo 4, and Matt brought this up earlier, they did just such a crappy job advertising this up to the point where advertisement really didn't start kicking in for Vessel of Hatred in any meaningful way until really close to launch. And when you do that, you create your own problem, right? And it's a lot of, or people that didn't pre-order because they're busy with something else. And then all of a sudden it drops, and then the FOMO hits, and they immediately purchase it and they want to install and play it. So in your estimates, if you're going off of purely pre-order, which they might have been, you're not accounting for the bump or flux that always happens when something drops. WoW used to be like notoriously bad at this, right?
Yeah.
When a WoW expansion would drop, people would not pre-order, but they would order it immediately on launch, or they would pay the money immediately on launch, especially as Battle.net hit and they were able to do it digitally and not instead of having to go to the store and get it. And it would crush the systems. They just got better at handling that crush because, going back to the other point, they had a bigger team. So you're right. They should have known and should have expected it, but I don't know that they expected this big of a crush, and it was massive.
I think there's an interesting dichotomy between what you said just now and what Liz P said. And since Liz just talked, I'm going to stop and let her go because I want to see if she says it.
I'm probably not going to mention the dichotomy because there's another point that kind of carries off what Joe said, and being in tech, which is that 0 downtime requires an investment, not just in people, but in like literally you are investing in the infrastructure to support your 0 downtime. So, if you're talking about a particular testing set that, maybe this was a bug that didn't get caught, or some kind of integration. If you're not investing in those groups and that testing, then you're gonna have these problems. So not a dichotomy. Just kind of an extension.
The thing I wanted to mention then that you had said for us, Joe was talking about how the advertising was weird and not quite ready, but while you had talked about how the really good marketing they did, I think it's almost like their two teams didn't communicate. Like the marketing and guys. If you know anything about Blizzard, you know this is not something that's the first time anyone's ever said. It's like the teams don't talk. It felt like to me, the marketing team had all these interesting ideas, and they put a lot of effort into these fully fleshed, video vignettes and the live action trailer and all that stuff. While the advertising guys, who should really be very close to the marketing guys because it's kind of the same thing, were like, "Yeah, we don't need to advertise it." So then all of a sudden there's a groundswell because they have all this stuff out, but they don't put the stuff out until practically the game is out. Yeah,
like if they had even had those videos out, say, an extra month sooner, I think it would have been big because it the more content on diverse platforms, the more places you have to market. But then at the same time, and I think they're starting to feel this heartburn a little more. You had 2 very big expansions launching within 6 weeks of each other.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and one of which,
not to compare those experiences.
but not only that, but I mean, there is one other thing that I think, and Liz, we were talking about the Liz Prime. We were talking about this a little bit earlier in chat. The one thing that Diablo has to contend with too, that WoW doesn't, is crossplay, and especially on a release like this, now you're adding a ton of variables to it, and it creates an inconsistent experience. PC players may not experience it as much because I think there's a bulk of people. I think I'd love to see the numbers, because I can only make an assumption, and it may very, very much be incorrect, but I assume that more people play on PC than consoles. I could be wrong. But when consoles, especially on like PlayStation and the Xbox network, are reaching back across to the back end to find players, because this is a constant on game, and it's a constant realm and shard subdivision game where you are going to experience players. If that crossplay is on, it's trying to pull that data from essentially Blizzard servers who are already being crushed, and they're not going to prioritize that traffic versus the people that are natively playing there. That's just infrastructure 101, right? Like that's, you take care of the people inside of the bubble before you worry about the people outside of the bubble. So the people outside of the bubble that are trying to connect in their own little tiny, sphere of influence, they're the ones that are like Liz, you had this problem with rubber banding, and I would not be surprised if that played a factor in it, because it's trying to get that data and updates from the server directly through them, and it's a different instance. Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, I really think there's been a server crash, because I have been playing on PlayStation. My guess would be that PlayStation is the least played platform for the game. That's just a guess, because it's it's on Xbox Game Pass, so people on Xbox can get into it really easily. It's kind of native on PC. Everyone uses Battle.net. I play on PlayStation. I bet it's, I
was gonna say, that's the other factor that I don't know that can be fully planned for too. If it's free on Game Pass, I mean, did the Diablo team's testing include the number of people that had Game Pass?
Yeah, that's true. A lot of people could really slam the servers from Game Pass.
Yeah, like,
Game
Pass this release today. Sweet. Go ahead.
Yeah.
Game Pass does not get the expansion for free, but they would have gotten the 2.0 patch, which contains a ton of new content, as well as Season 6, which started yesterday.
Just to give you guys some numbers that I just found while you were talking, the estimate is between 629 million to 710 million on console, and that's both consoles that have Diablo 4, versus over 900 million players on PC. So PC is bigger, but you can't really say that means consoles are insignificant or anything like that.
No, and I want to make it perfectly clear that.
Yeah. I just think it's interesting to think about just how big both of those pools are, and that they are constantly trying to pull between the two of them. However, whilst we do kind of actually have to talk about the game and not just launch day.
Do we though?
Yes.
Yeah, we do, because I actually have lots of them. First up, the new season launched at the same time as the expansion, and it's I want to say Season of Boiling Hatred or something, or no, Hatred Rising, not Boiling
Hatred Rising.
I don't know why I have Boiling Hatred on the thing. I think it's because one of my weapon enchants is Boiling Blood, so I've just been going So yeah, that's happening at the same time. Right now, I've got a season character, and I'm messing around with her. I actually started playing on my non-season character though, because I wanted to get into the story right away. Only to find out you can just start the expansion. Boom! You can start the new expansion story.
Yeah, you can jump right in.
Yeah. So I was like, oh well, I'll just do what I always do and play through the old one on my season character while I'm leveling through the new campaign on my original character, because my original character needs some love. But yeah, new season. Do any of you have any thoughts on it yet? Have you gotten a chance to play with it? I've only played a little bit with it.
Yep.
Almost not at all. I've been diving into the campaign as much as I can.
Yeah, I've been doing mainly the campaign stuff. Sorry.
That's okay. Liz P.
Well, and this is kind of the nice part about Season 6 is that, and I'm going to be very careful and not spoil anything here. But the season does kind of tie into it's tangential to the Vessel of Hatred. launch. So the story that you're experiencing within Vessel of Hatred has influenced what's going on in season 6, and I feel like we all know that Big Daddy of Hatred Mephisto is a player in the expansion, so to speak. You know, they might have teased that a little bit. Him torturing Neyril through the Soulstone. But his reach is what's supposed to be the impetus behind the seasonal theme, and so that makes it pretty well integrated. In my thought, is that you're still, whether you're playing on seasonal servers or whether you're playing on your Eternal Realm, you're feeling the impact of hatred, of Mephisto's hatred in the environment in Sanctuary. So it's it's like the other seasons in that it's not, this in-depth story or anything, but the Realm Walkers are still giving you some pretty solid loot. So I think it's worth starting up on a seasonal character if you so choose, if you enjoy seasonal play.
Yeah, which I do. I just at the time wanted to get my main characters for as well.
Yeah.
I used to be back in Diablo 3 days. I used to constantly do the seasons with the same character over and over again because I would just take him back to level 1 and start over. Which on some level must have been really terrible for that character. If you think of the character as being self-aware, they'd be like, "Oh God, why am I back in Tristram again? Why am I practically naked?"
It's the Groundhog Day of video games.
Yeah. But nevertheless, I do like the season play and also like characters. So I'm going to just talk straight up. I'm going to just say something, and then I hear Liz, I hear you trying to talk, so I'm going to let you. But I want to say this first part. I really like how my character is playing. Like my barbarian feels really good. I don't know if there's actually weak or strong or whatever. They feel like I've got my difficulty level up as high as I can. I think it's expert or the one after expert, which is like 10. Yeah. One of those two. I can't remember which. But yeah, there's some challenge to the gameplay. I've been getting near pretty close to death a few times, but overall I've really been enjoying it. So now, Liz, what were you trying to say?
The season theme is kind of interesting in that, Liz mentioned the Realm Walkers, that you have these giant beasts spawning every 15 minutes. There's one in a different zone every 15 minutes. This beast lumbers towards a ritual site and spawns these ritual towers, which you have to destroy and kill the thing before you can go into a portal that was previously on its back and collect treasure, because we all love treasure. But for one, I think it's interesting because Diablo has finally embraced the fact that, okay, players want to do things, and we can't have things on like a 4-hour timer. All of the timers in the game have been radically compressed over the past year, and so practically anytime you want to go fight a Riftwalker, you could go fight a Riftwalker. And
so it's like
but
the
at
boss.
The same time,
there was a boss in Pandemonium in D3 that did the exact same thing. So that's cool. They're referencing that. That makes me happy.
Yeah.
Actually, it even goes back further than that. These existed in Reaper of Souls.
That's D3.
Yep.
That's what I just said.
You said Pandemonium.
Yeah, but in Diablo 3.
Oh gosh, I thought you meant
you were thinking Diablo 2 Pandemonium.
I was.
Yeah.
So yes,
I'm just confused.
Right. Sorry.
Pandemonium appears in both games.
Pandemonium appears in both games.
That's all. There was confusion because I didn't specify, why when I said Pandemonium, I didn't specify the Diablo experience. That was mine. But
it's okay. It's not like they reuse things over and over and over again. It's fine.
I personally, I like the callbacks in D4. I like the ones I'm seeing so far. In fact, I'm going to say this: Nahantu is basically just a big expansion of callbacks. It's a lot of Diablo 2 callbacks. There's just no way around it, because the whole reason you're in the zone is because of stuff Mephisto did in Diablo 2. So, yeah. Mm-hmm. Joe?
I don't have anything to add.
About gameplay?
It's a lot of fun. I've been playing periodically today, like off and on as I've had time between other things. And I really enjoy it. It feels like a natural extension of Diablo 4, which I think is really important. It just is fun. Like I'm playing my Eternal character. I'm playing my Druid because I said I would, and because it's Druid and I effing love my Druid. And it is just viscerally satisfying to like still pulverize something and just watch like 1,000 things on screen just cease to exist. The only thing that I have a complaint with is I'm like having to reteach myself how to gear and how to move legendaries around. Because I stopped playing for a while because I'm not into seasonal play. Well, I would be. I'm not into seasonal characters. But yeah, I really am enjoying it so far. It feels like what I wanted the expansion to be, and I'm super here for it.
Okay, then I'm going to ask this question. Is anybody playing a Spirit, the Spiritbound or whatever they're called? Is anyone playing one of them? Like,
I am.
So who is?
I am going to make a seasonal character for the first time this round for this season, and it will be a spirit, the Spiritborn.
Okay, but Liz P, you're currently playing one. That's your character that you're playing through.
I both have played one, and I have one that I'm going to play more. It's after. Yes. Okay. Sorry. For a second, I was like, wait, what day it is? What day is it? So
Tuesday, I think.
I have played the Spiritborn already, and I have a fresh one on my account. And I think we're allowed to say that now. Liz can tell me if I'm wrong. So
we had access to an early press preview, and Liz over there, not me, other Liz, got to play it.
Yes, so it was a full copy of the expansion, basically. So I played through 3 different characters on there somehow, up to level 20 to 25 apiece. And the Spiritborn are interesting. I am one of those folks who played Monk in Diablo 3 amongst all the other characters, and so I'm having little flashbacks here and there. But the supporting spirits that they have with the Spiritborn give it an entirely new flavor. It was quite enjoyable, although you definitely start out feeling the squishiness because you are dashing around. You are not, unless you're doing the gorilla build, you are not meant to get hit. And when you get hit, you get hit hard. So there's some of that, you want to use that mobility to survive, because if you don't, you're gonna be a pancake.
Cool. I was hoping someone could talk about it because I know for myself and Joe, we're kind of like ride or die with the class we started. Like for me, I have like multiple barbarians, 3 of whom are level 50.
I've been ride and die. I've been ride and die for the druids since Diablo 2, baby.
Yeah, well, barbarians are the only class that's actually been in all of them except 1.
I know.
Nobody's been in 1 and 2 and 3 and 4. Although Sorcerer comes close.
Sorcerer comes close. Necromancer.
Necro's only been in 3 if you count Immortal, but they have been in 3.
Necro was in 2.
Necro was in 2, Diablo 3, and oh no, you're right. Yeah. They were in 2, 3, and this one. So they were in 4 if you count Immortal.
So, but the Barbarian is definitely one of the foundational classes, and that was one of the ones that I played.
I think the reason that it's in all the games is it's the simplest to explain to people.
Yeah,
like
you hit things.
Yeah.
It's just a core gameplay concept. You need a big guy, and they're gonna smash. Yeah, that's their job, to smash things. Everyone loves smashing things.
Hulk of the Diablo team.
And I think that's also why having a kind of that barbarian berserker is one of the mercenaries. I'm gonna carry that thread forward, because that's, they touch on each of the fantasies, the caster, the ranged, the defender, and then the insane berserker who just also happens to be cannibalistic.
Yeah, the weapon of mass destruction you literally drop on people. That's what that one is.
Exactly.
I haven't gotten all the way through all of the stuff yet, but so far, the mercenaries come off. I'm going to say this. When I say weird, I don't mean bad. Weird and bad are not the same thing for me. Weird is often some of my favorite stuff. I really enjoy my insane cannibalistic friend, especially since I'm a barbarian, so I can always be turned to other people and go, you think I'm bad? Look at her. She's got your friend's leg in her mouth. Like, So there's a lot to it. The mercenary system is actually, it's kind of like the Diablo 3 one, the companions, but it's got a little bit of the Diablo 2 in it too. I actually felt the Diablo 2-ness of it just because even though they're individuals with like identities, which they didn't have in Diablo 2, they do stick much more seriously to like a role. Like when you pick them, they are there to basically do that thing that your class is not necessarily great at. So of course I pick the one thing my class is already great at, and I bring that one along. It's just two of us. Whatever.
I like having Rahir with my necromancer, but the one that really surprised me for just kind of, I guess, power level was the Cursed Child. And
oh yeah, the boo.
Oh my gosh.
She reminds me of one of those one of the League of Legends characters, the one that had the whole video about her being like, bullied as a child and having her doll, and then she just explodes in flames and kills everybody. That's kind of the Cursed Child, man. It's very similar feel.
Yeah, it's creepy. Like this is still Diablo.
Oh yeah,
it's still creepy, but yeah, very very powerful accompaniment. The ranged, I can't remember his name off the top of my head. Like
Esu or something, or Esu.
Yeah, or
the dude you have to bring the hat to.
Yes,
yeah. Captain Boring Pants. I'm calling him.
I did not enjoy using him as much, but I think there are people, especially like there's a feature where he highlights enemies on your map, and I think that's going to be very valuable. But and I was like this with Diablo 3 as well. I never ever use the ranged option. I always use the Templar or the Enchantress.
I mean, he was fun just for his dialogue, but yeah, in terms of what he provided, I didn't use him very often.
Yeah, but I mean, you can hear his dialogue standing by the fire where he's complaining about, the Templar being so boring and stick up his buddy, or, saying, why won't you take me somewhere with you? But other than that, and I kind of have the same vibe from the Diablo 4 one, so.
Yeah, I think to a certain degree it comes down to what you need the most.
Exactly.
But with that, we were actually supposed to cover that anyways. Does anyone actually know how runewords are supposed to be working other than Liz P, who I'm assuming does?
There are two categories of runeword. No, sorry.
Are there in this one? I don't. It's not Diablo 2's version, but
there are two categories.
Yeah,
it's the right start.
It's a much more watered down version of the runes. That's not even fair. It's a very different version of the rune word system from Diablo 2. So in Diablo 2, you would actually have different runes, like, whatever the 3-letter rune word is, and then you would arrange them in a specific order going top to bottom, and it would activate a special effect based off of the word that you would construct with them in the piece of gear.
Actually, I think the first time I've ever compared it to anything, I compared it to Skyrim's Dragon Shouts, because it's the same kind of Fus, Ro, and Da create the big shout. But if you have other things, you can make like Anfund, Fus, and it does a different. Yeah. So it's more like that.
But in this one, there's essentially two pieces. There's top and bottom. I don't understand how to really simplify it more than that, because it's offering and overflow. Top is offering, bottom is overflow. The offering system, you gain by doing a particular task. Like you might gain 50 offering every time you travel 5 meters or 10 meters or whatever. And then the bottom portion, the overflow, it does something when you hit a threshold. And so those will activate, and they can be something simple as, you gain your offering and then it replaces your next evade with a sorcerer's teleport, which lets you blink further and deal damage, even if you're not a sorcerer. Or it might give you a different effect based off of what your class is. So we know that right now there are specific class ones. Like barbarians have ones that affect challenging shout and warcry. Druids have ones that affect earthen bulwark and petrify, which makes me very happy because I love earthen bulwark. It makes me super happy that I get to empower that with runes. Thank you. So then there's some really, you can just continually combine effects. I think I got that mostly right, Liz. Yes.
Yes.
There's an activator rune, and then there's an action rune. So,
yeah, that's the offering and then the overflow. The offering is what you gather the resource with. The overflow is what activates the ability.
Yeah, and you were mixing and matching. So you have one room that says, okay, here's what you do, and the other room says this is what happens. And then there's the offerings thing that you generate so many offerings by doing the thing, and it takes so many offerings to trigger this effect. So it feels like a fun mix and match system.
It is. Yeah. It is. Can definitely agree with that.
I think it also is something that potentially will be easier to understand than what runewords were in Diablo 2, and I think that's something we shouldn't gloss over, because in Diablo 2, when runes were introduced, you had to have like a codex to like understand what each one did. Like, I, no joke, had a notebook next to my desk that like each rune, like what it was triggering, like I had it all written down. Brady Games, actually, back in the olden days when guides were a thing, because the internet was not really fully functional yet. It was there, but it wasn't the treasure trove of information and bad information we have now. Like what rune words I had discovered that, you know, weren't there, but Brady Games had literally the book of runes. Like, at one point they compiled everything that they could, and they didn't even get everything. It was a very complicated system, and then depending on how many sockets you had in a piece of gear limited what you could have. Here, you just need 2. It's much, much easier. And I believe you can have multiple rune words triggered at the same time, right? Is that correct?
Yeah, you can.
If you have duplicate, or no, actually, because you can't combine the same things.
But you can have 2 rune words equipped.
Yes.
Yeah, which is better than Diablo 2, because in Diablo 2 you could have 1.
Yeah. They made it broader, and it also gives you the option that, you know, folks playing WoW Season of Discovery have experienced, where you're getting to multi-class a little bit if you want. Like, I could have like you said, the combination where every time I evade, my evade actually becomes the sorcerer teleport. And I get to use teleport instead, and that's not nothing. Like, the skills. So each class has a couple of skills that show up in the rune list in the I should say the runes of invocation, because those are the ones that are the actual ability that you're getting. And so you can kind of have, you know, your barbarian, but, you know, let's say you want to add something in addition to ground stomp, and so you teleport, or you cast a necromancer curse. Like, so it gives you a bit of crossplay that is surprisingly fun. And they've added that in other ways before with the seasonal themes. So having that as kind of a permanent addition is really cool.
I agree. Although I haven't gotten to play with them yet, I have still leveling, and mostly that's what I've been dealing with.
Oh, that is one thing that I think maybe we should mention too, is a lot of the stuff that you get here doesn't activate by default. You do have to do a little questy to get them, like your pet and rune words. It's
mercenaries.
And mercenaries, you actually do have to participate to activate those features. It's not just something you get automatically, and they're denoted by purple icons or purple quest like markers on the map when you have one of them active. And it is highly recommended that even if you're trying to tear butt through the main story, that you stop and go and do those things. One of them is quite simply petting the dog. It is a wonderful thing you can do, and it completes a quest and gives you access to pets. And I do want to make this comment, because I made this comment in our Guild Diablo channel on Discord, and I know I mentioned it here. Way long ago, I said Diablo needed to steal the pet system from Torchlight. We're halfway there. Just let me manage the pets inventory and let me send it to town, and I will be the happiest druid in all of Sanctuary.
Meanwhile, I have John Bon Jovi in my head now because of you.
You're welcome.
We're halfway there. Oh, let my dog sell stuff for me. I do want to mention really fast, there's other stuff that we haven't really talked about, but there's not a lot to say other than it is this thing. The party finder in Diablo 4 is now there if you want to like group up with just people who are playing at the same time as you. Like, if you've ever played an MMO, you know what this is. They have that now. And the Kurast Undercity, which I find real interesting. This is basically, again, what I said before, there's a lot of callbacks in this game. Kurast Undercity is essentially kind of like a timed thing where you go in and you just keep going until you can't anymore. Either you you die or you succeed, sort of thing. It's also interesting that the first time you're doing this, you have to progress halfway through the campaign to get to the quest to unlock Kurast Undercity. So you can't just, you could do it like, as early as level 15 solo if you want to, or you can go with the groups, whatever. But you do need to have unlocked it first on at least one character. So you'll probably be higher than 15 when you do that. Even if you start a seasoned character and you start at level 1 and you go straight into Nahantu, you'll probably still be way above 15 when you get to that point. I was at level 50 when I started, and I think I'm level 55 now. I haven't even gotten that much past the mercenary den. So there's a lot of content here. You level much quicker.
There is, yeah.
So
there's a lot of content and a lot of story.
Yeah, and you can also, real fast, I do want to mention, you can do stuff to increase the timer. So in a way, it's also somewhat similar to Nephilim Rifts.
Yeah, it's a lot like, it's a ton like Rifts in Diablo 3.
Yeah, which, I did so many Rifts that I got confused, but that other games used the word Rift after a while and was like, huh? Oh, right, yeah, no, that, like the actual game Rifts. Okay. Nevertheless, yeah, I was pretty happy to see that. But now we've basically covered Diablo. Well,
I do want to make one more point about Diablo 4, which is to say there are a lot of features coming to the base game, even if you do not buy the expansion. All of the stuff in Nahantu, including the Spiritborn class, including Kurast Undercity, stuff like that is just the expansion. But you can go in and play Season 6. You can fight these Realm Walkers. You can use the Party Finder. You can enjoy all of these game changes, the new difficulty levels, the new skills and the extra skill points and the extra Paragon points. You can do all of that, and you can still have a lot of fun in Diablo 4, even if you don't buy the expansion. And frankly, I think right now, Diablo 4 is the best game it has been.
I would even say
the base game.
Yeah. I'm trying to agree with you. So just keep going.
Yes. The base game has improved so much over the past year. And the launch of patch 2.0 yesterday just really streamlined a lot of gameplay. I think everything the Diablo 4 team has done has been an improvement. And you'll see a lot of improvements, even if you don't own the expansion. So don't feel like you can't jump in and enjoy the game just because you didn't shell out for the expansion. There's a lot of stuff to do and a lot of gameplay.
Level 60, right? Like you can still get to level 60 and you can still do Paragon, even if you don't. So you don't even need the expansion to do that.
Yeah, you don't need the expansion to level to get all your Paragon points. You can do all of that either way. You just can't play the Spiritborn. You can't go to Nahantu and do all the stuff in Nahantu. And you don't have runewords. Sorry, that's expansion.
Those are Nahantu. All right, so I'm going to move on real fast because we've got a couple of non-Blizzard story things I wanted to mention. The first one that I'm going to mention is the second one I wrote down, namely that Horizon Zero Dawn has got a remaster, and a lot of people were said what, huh? Part of the reason for that is that it's not like Horizon Zero Dawn is that old of a game. It came out in 2017. And
frankly, it still looks stunning.
Yeah,
this game.
What did you remaster?
Yeah, the game looked so great when it first came out.
I know.
It's still, I mean, I'm sure it looks better, but it was this game already looked really good. It's not.
You did, but the thing that you have to consider too is now it's available on PC.
Oh yeah.
So now it's
for PC a while ago.
It did, but I think that, and this is something that I think is just true of consoles. Consoles are great, and stuff can look really, really good on a console. But Spider-Man's a really good example of this too. I own it for PC as well as PlayStation. It looks great on PlayStation. It looks infinitely better when they released a remaster of that already for the PC, and it's because when they do that, they're generally trying to make use of a broader spectrum of graphics processing.
New tech.
Right? So I agree with you. Horizon looks absolutely phenomenal. It's going to look absolutely even more killer on a 4090, right? It's just going to be that much more, I guess, fidelity, I guess. I don't know what the word. It's just going to be sweet. And I can understand why they do it.
But at the same time, it is kind of interesting that they chose, rather than say work on something else, they've just chosen to remaster a game that a lot of people were like, I'm playing it and it's great. Why did you do this? And also at the same time, they've gotten rid of the original version of Horizon Zero Dawn. And that's the thing a lot of people are mad about. You can upgrade to the remaster. I don't know if you have to pay for it or not. The articles were not clear. But whether or not you have to pay to upgrade it, it's still...
This GameSpot article says you can have the option to upgrade to PS5 version for $10.
Okay, so you are still spending a little money, whereas it's just basically like, can we get people to pay us again for this game that they've already paid us for a couple of times now? And some people are really angry.
Skyrim did it.
Oh yeah, Skyrim did it 18 times. Bethesda's really good at that one, man. I'm not. It doesn't make it a good thing to do. I like that Skyrim did it. I feel it's like almost The Simpsons. Skyrim did it. Like I feel like Joe has hit upon the zeitgeist here.
The interesting thing is a lot of remasters, they happen after the game has been out long enough for us to start being nostalgic about it, Like it was like with Mass Effect. We were like 2 or 3 console generations down the road before we got a Mass Effect remaster, and it was like, it's really hard to play the original games. They are so old at this point, and so we got the remasters, which let us play them again in a consolidated format and upgrade the graphics of all of them. And it just, like, I love Horizon Zero Dawn, but it doesn't feel like it's old enough that I'm nostalgic for it, if that makes sense. It still feels like a pretty modern game.
Yeah, I can see that.
I'm kind of excited for it, though, too, because I want to buy it for the PC, because mods.
Yeah, but it's been out for the PC for a while.
I know, but I didn't buy it because I owned it on the PlayStation, and I wasn't going to buy it on the PC, but now that they're doing a remaster, it's like, maybe I'll buy it for the PC now. We'll see.
That's fair. But still, that is the thing that is happening, and I wanted to mention it because at least 3 people here love Horizon Zero Dawn, and Liz Patt hasn't said anything negative, so I'm going to assume we have 4. The next other thing that I thought we'd talk about really fast is the Dragon Age, the Veilguard. When it comes out, it will not be using the Dragon Age Keep that they introduced in 2014 for Dragon Age Inquisition, so you could basically import all of your choices and decisions in the previous games without having to have some kind of weird save editor thing. It was a really interesting innovation, and it's not getting used, and some people are sad. And so I thought we would mention this. I am not one of the people who's sad, but I do understand why people are sad. Liz, Joe, even other Liz, if you guys have opinions, now is the time to share them.
Meep, I got nothing.
I mean, I think the thing is that there are so many choices you could have made in Dragon Age Origins, Dragon Age 2, Dragon Age Inquisition. And I have to admit, the first time I went into Dragon Age Keep, before I was playing Inquisition, I mean, the reason you had Keep was because Dragon Age 2 and Origins were on previous console generations. It was difficult. I mean, there were hoops to jump through to import save files. Maybe you switched consoles. Maybe you're playing on, it was difficult to just say, I'm going to import my old save.
Oh, let me tell you the story of the time Matt got his 360 out.
Yeah, I know. That's literally what I would do. I would play through this one, and then I would play through that one and make the perfect save file. And the thing was, you could use Dragon Age Keep, and you didn't have to do that. You would just say, okay, I made this choice, I made this choice. But the first time I went into Keep to edit, to put together a world state, I was like, who the heck is Connor? What did I do with Connor? And of course, that's something you do in Dragon Age Origins. You can deal with Connor, and you save him or you don't save him. But when I was first doing this, and I do consider myself a fairly significant Dragon Age fan, I was like, what the heck is this? And then I had to Google it, look it up on the Dragon Age wiki. And it's like, oh, yeah, that kid. Okay, well, I guess so some of what you get in Dragon Age Keep feels unimpactful.
Yeah, it's only there for small little tidbits that you might or might not see.
And but it also feels like you are so far removed from playing the original game that you may not even remember these choices. There are so many small choices that have so little impact on the future games, like Connor. Connor, there is a brief scene if you recruit the mages in Dragon Age Inquisition in that quest. There is a brief moment with Connor, and that's it. I mean, it has no impact on the game or the story. So you were making a lot of choices and tweaking a lot of things for the sake of making a lot of choices and tweaking a lot of things. And I admit, I've done it. I have several saved world states in Dragon Age Keep to import and play games with as I see fit.
Yeah,
But-
I'm doing it. Yeah, I do it for Inquisition, so I can like see what happens if you had the Elf Warden. Yeah,
Exactly. And yeah, so you can just play Inquisition with this world state without having to go back and play through all these other games. I think it's great. But I also think maybe Veilguard just sheds a lot of dead weight by doing that.
I
And
believe
maybe
there was something
Veilguard-
was said that you only really need to know about 3 things from previous games to do Veilguard.
Yeah, well, I mean, you can go in. I believe Veilguard will be using kind of a tarot card system where you're going to pick this and pick that. You pick a few cards to say what your world state is in, instead of going through like 50 options in Dragon Age Keep. And if you added Dragon Age Inquisition to Dragon Age Keep, you'd be adding like 100 more things.
Yeah,
And these
which I did.
things, yeah, these things have so little impact on the final game.
Yeah,
that
and
I
you're, I mean,
think
you're
maybe
just
it's
you're
just-
also just shedding ancient code too at that point as well. It's one
Plus,
less
you're
thing
kind of
for them to
making
worry
you're making
about.
people who are coming into Veilguard fresh, and that is a sizable group because the previous game came out 10 years ago. There are people
Yeah.
who would be playing Veilguard who were not alive.
Of course.
You know?
Even oh god, don't say that. Don't say that. I mean, if you played Inquisition, you didn't have to use Dragon Age Keep. You could just say there was a default world state that you would play Inquisition on unless you imported something from Keep. So, I mean, they could have done that where you could have had Keep, but by not having Keep, you can say, okay, you can either say, okay, this is how the world is, and just say, this is the canonical way this went, or you can give people like several choices on how the world is when you start up the game, and they make those choices at the beginning of the game.
Yeah, it's not like you're going to see all those secondary characters who got like a little blip if you did this or that. They're not going to be in Tevinter anyway.
Yeah, so this allows them to kind of focus development and not have to take into account 100 decisions players made 15 years ago, you know? So I think it's perfectly fine. I do kind of like the idea of Dragon Age Keep being able to carry forward all of this, but in carrying this forward, you're carrying a lot of weight that the developers have to consider, that the developers have to write into the game, and maybe a lot of it just doesn't matter.
Yeah, good point, actually. But I think at this point we're going to wrap things up because we're over time and we started a little early, so we've gone longer than usual. I want to say thank you again to Liz P for showing up for us and being on the show. You've helped quite a bit because I don't think any of us are quite as versed in Diablo as you are at the moment. So thank you.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, cool. You can come back. We let Corey come on anytime he wants. You can come on. Corey practically lives in our garage if we had a garage, which we don't, but our metaphorical garage. Corey lives in it. So, feel free. Joe, do you mind?
No, Blizzard Watch is made possible due to the generous contributions at patreon.com/BlizzardWatch. Your continued support means that this podcast site and community is able to thrive and grow. Blizzard Watch supporters enjoy exclusive benefits like early access to the podcast, better chance at having your question answered on our podcast, or the Q&A ads-free site experience.
Thank you very much, Joe. And also thank you to Omega Liz for being here and basically shaping a lot of the discussion, which is always great. Thank you to Liz, too, for also being here and getting me confused as to what to call people for an entire show, which, I'm a simple caveman lawyer here. I don't know what I'm doing. This has been the Blizzard Watch podcast. Thank you guys so much for being here with us. As Liz said before, your support is what keeps the site going, both on Patreon and just in general. We really appreciate it. Thank you guys so much. We'll be back next week.